Good afternoon, and I'm glad to see you all here today on this gorgeous day. Thank you for agreeing to spend some of it inside with us. I think you'll find it well worth the hearing. Today we have the three brothers who represented the Southern Province at our once every 7 years Unity Synod here to tell whatever they wish of their experiences and reflections based on Unity Synod. We have here the Reverend David Guthrie, who is the president of our Provincial Elders Conference, the Reverend Craig Troutman, who is pastor at Raleigh Moravian Church, and the Reverend John D. Wright, who is pastor at Congo Hills Moravian Church. These three brothers made the trip and came back safely with many stories to tell, I'm sure. And I understand Brother David wants to make an opening comment.
Thanks, Nola. John and Craig and I are happy to be here today to talk a bit about Unity Synod. John will be showing some slides that sort of capture some of the visual things that were going on through the 2 weeks that we were there, roughly 2 weeks we were there. I'll be giving a brief review of the significant resolutions that were passed at Synod, and then Craig will also be talking about a particular one that a lot of people are interested in talking about, so that's a bit of our agenda today. So this was the 43rd Synod of the Worldwide Church. We actually had a little bit of debate about how to count them, but we're really certain that it's the 27th Unity Synod since the renewal of the Moravian Church. We gathered in Montego Bay, Jamaica, under the theme of discerning our unity together, and we were hosted by the Moravian Church in Jamaica and the Grand Cayman Islands, or the Cayman Islands. It was about 66 delegates from 26 unity and mission provinces, and we had invited guests and staff and observers, so that's about the size of the body. And we met for about 10 days there in Montego Bay. And John wants to talk to us a little bit about our locations and some of the things that we did. He'll be showing some slides.
Well, just to put some things in context, many of you know this, but as a way of getting into Synod, Christ, the chief elder, is the highest authority of our worldwide church. And every 4 years, the Southern Province holds a Synod to discern the chief elder's will for our province on a unity level. Every 7 years, the Synod is held to discern Christ's will for our unity. Our unity consists of 29 unity provinces, 6 mission provinces, and 12 mission areas. And locations of our provinces, you can see that they're clustered in Africa. We have an African region of the Worldwide Moravian Unity, a European region, a Caribbean, and now Caribbean South American region, and the North American region, our 4 regions. And if we were to line them out, we would see that these are the list of those provinces. They're unity provinces, then there are mission provinces within the regions, and there are also what is known as mission areas. There we go, thank you. And these are a list of the mission areas that we have. As far as our numbers, 1.3 is the best count of Moravians worldwide. Of those 1.3 million, 78% are a part of the African region, 17% reside in or live their faith in the Caribbean and South American region, only 2% in the European region, and in our North American region, we're 3%. This is another way that we might illustrate that. This is from the the German, our church in Germany. They produced this graphic, and this is by country. There's certainly more Moravians in the African region than what is in Tanzania, but there you see close to 700,000 represented in Tanzania. And can you find North America on the? Yes, North America is the other red one. If you look hard enough down there, we look like a little pond there, don't we? But anyway, I thought that's a very helpful graphic to put into context our numbers. As David said, we were hosted by the Moravian Church, Jamaica, Cayman Islands. 65 congregations with about half that many ordained pastors serving under call. They were founded 1753, about the same time we were. I believe we were 1753. They were 1 year later, 1754. This is the Rose Hall Hilton in Montego Bay. Certainly not typical of what you see in Jamaica. There are 2 Jamaicas, and one of them is the resort coast, Montego Bay and surrounding areas. And this was our Synod meeting room. Representation from the southern province, you see David Craig and myself there. Adriana Craver was there, putting a face on the Unity Women's Board. Bishop Sam Gray was one of 2 bishops of the Unity selected to be there, and help me out, folks. The translator, Angelica Regalado, was one of the hardest working people at Synod, working as a translator. Of course, the Synod took place in English. The Synod leadership, our chair was Errol Connor in the center there. He is the vice president of the East West Indies province. Beside him are the 4 vice chairs of Synod, each one representing one of the 4 regions of the Unity. We divided in working groups, and this was a portion of my working group. There were 2 other folks in mine, and represented the southern province here. Beside me is a brother from Tanzania, then a brother from South Africa. Many of you will recognize Brother Armando from Cuba, and the brother from the British province, and the other brother from Suriname, or Ghana. I'm sorry, he's from Ghana. When I was growing up, it was said that for every 1 white Moravian, there are 5 Moravians of color. And I think the ratio today is 1 in 10. And we felt that very much while we were there. And this is the plenary session, another plenary session. So with that introduction, we'll go ahead with David, and he'll talk about some of the 56 resolutions. We did, and I wish I had the pictures coming up as they were supposed to, but we did have 1 day of travel. We toured the interior, visited many fabulous congregations. If there's time at the end of the presentation, we can show those a little bit. So, David.
John's right. We did have a travel day and covered most of the western half of the island of Jamaica. As it turned out, it was quite a tour of 4 different congregations and the Bethlehem College and the actual first mission station of the Moravian Church in Jamaica that was founded in 1756. It's a national heritage site in Jamaica, and there was a dedication of that site as part of the Synod proceedings. I want to talk, just give you a brief overview of some of the resolutions of Synod. Unity Synod is kind of like a provincial Synod. There are decisions that are made, there are elections that are held, the budget's approved, and then there are a number of resolutions that are passed. And with respect to elections, Brother Courtroy Jarvis of the Eastern West Indies province was elected at the Unity Board meeting, which preceded the Synod. He was elected to be the president of the Unity Board for a 2-year period. And I was elected to be the vice president of the Unity Board for a 2-year period. So beginning in January, we'll assume those responsibilities and carry them through to 2018. Brother John Wrights was elected to another term on the Unity Committee on Theology. He's been serving in that capacity, and he'll continue to do so. So this is a quick rundown, but it'll give you a sense of the decisions that were made as we gathered. There was a creation of a Unity Cultural Heritage Foundation and Fund to help in the preservation of important historic sites. A Moravian Unity Disaster Relief Fund was created, and also some emphasis placed on having the regions develop a way to effectively respond to natural and other disasters. The Unity Women's Desk featured quite strongly at Synod. Their role was affirmed, their funding was increased, their oversight of the Unity Women's Conference or consultation was reaffirmed, and they were given a couple of tasks about helping the provinces keep up with some reporting about issues related to women in the church. There was a reaffirmation of a statement about violence against women and children. The Mission Development Fund, which is, if you think about it, they have an operating budget for the Unity, then they have a Mission Development Fund, and those funds are used for a development of the provinces and Unity provinces and special projects. That budget was right at $200,000. The other thing that the Synod does is set priorities for the grants that are provided from the Moravian Church Foundation, and they set those as being theological education, Unity undertakings, supporting the work in Suriname, and projects within the provinces, and then emergency requests as needed. They assigned the details of the Unity Prayer Day to the Unity Mission and Development Board. And so the Synod no longer will be the body that says who gets prayed for on the Unity Prayer Days and what the Prayer Day project is. The Mission and Development Board will be in charge of that, and that just puts that decision closer to the action of where the actual needs and concerns might be, and that was a good move. The Synod created a Unity Youth Committee and also a Unity Youth Desk Coordinator, a part-time position. So this will be a worldwide emphasis on the youth of our church. They approved a pilot project for Moravian African Studies to be coordinated between Moravian Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania and the TKU Teku University, Teofilo Kisanji University, which is the theological university in Tanzania. So it will be a formal program of study dealing with African heritage and the Moravian Church. They established an association of Moravian theological schools for the entire Unity, which will continue some work that's been going on coordinating the work of those schools together. We should be getting ready because they approved an August 2018 New World Unity Youth Tour, which will be visiting Bethlehem and Winston-Salem, so we have time to get ready. There were several statements that were approved, statements on issues of the day. So there was one on food speculation, one about refugees, one about human trafficking, and also one about terrorism and violent attacks. All of these details, if they are not currently on the provincial website, if you want to delve into what those statements are and anything I'm talking about, the full body of the resolutions will be posted on the Moravian Church Southern Province website. Just look under, I believe they'll be either on the front page or it'll be under the Unity Synod tab. So we created a new category called Prospective Mission Area. So now we have 4 levels of development: Prospective Mission Area, Mission Province, and Unity Province. And there were guidelines that were associated with how to identify a prospective mission area. There was a code of conduct approved so that when there is a conflict within a province or even between provinces that cannot be resolved at that level, when the Unity Board gets involved, there was sort of a code of conduct that was developed about how we go about conflict resolution in the Unity. And a discussion paper on the role of the worldwide Moravian Unity was presented. But we had hoped to be able to discuss it at length at Synod. That did not occur, and so that document has been commended to all of the provinces for further study. It's a really nice paper that was prepared by Jorn Beutler, the Unity Board Administrator. He gave a lecture at Moravian Seminary last year on that topic, and then this paper was, he brought it to the Committee on Theology, and then they brought it forward for discussion. And it really does grapple with some of the issues that are facing the church as we think about the worldwide church and how we're organized and how we work with each other. So that's a very quick run through of some of the key decisions that were made as we gathered together. There was one resolution dealing with some concerns of the Unity Synod about the decisions in our northern province in their 2014 Synod. And there was a specific resolution that was really directed to the northern province, but it was dealt with at the Synod. Craig happened to be in the committee, one of the committees that worked on that resolution, and he wants to give you a perspective about what that resolution was about and what that process was like. So thanks, Craig.
Yes, I've been asked to shed a little light, hope, on a resolution that's piqued the interest of some in our province. So have my notes here because I realize I've got 10 minutes to do this. And I want to begin by telling you about the way my 4-year-old grandson makes sense of the suffering in his life. Months ago, he got stung by a bee. And after this happened, he began asking people to tell him stories about times they were stung by a bee. Later, he got a splinter in his finger, and he did the same thing. Tell me about a time when you got a splinter in your finger, Poppy. That's what he calls me. Wednesday morning after the election, he asked his dad, my son, to tell him a story about getting a splinter. And with a heavy heart, my son said, Sam, I can't really tell you a story right now. Sam said, Daddy, you have to keep telling the story about so many hurts until you get to the heal. The healing. Briefly, I'm going to share the story of Resolution 44. I plan to keep telling this story in hopes of getting to the healing. Friends, in all honesty, I'm not there yet. I'm very aware of a painful divide within the Moravian Church regarding homosexuality. For 2 years now, I've been part of the steering committee with my friend Nola, that we in the Southern Province have been facilitating a conversation having to do with our different understandings about homosexuality and the church. And because of that role, my role in the Southern Province, I chose to serve on the Faith and Order Committee of Unity Synod, a committee that took up this matter and presented a resolution, Resolution 44, to the plenary. Before getting to the resolution, I want to note the makeup of the committee. There were 2 representatives from the Northern Province and 2 from the Southern Province, Bishop Sam Gray and myself. There were also delegates from England, the West Indies, Honduras, Tanzania, and the Czech Republic. Prior to Unity Synod, the Committee on Theology from the Czech Unity Province drafted and submitted 6 proposals, not 1, not 2, 6 proposals having to do with homosexual behavior and the blessing of same-gender commitments. If you're curious about the content of the Czech Unity Province's proposals, you'll get some idea of it by hearing one of the titles. One proposal was called Message to the American Church Northern Province. All of the Czech proposals, in one form or another, express their province's disapproval of the action taken by the 2014 Northern Province Synod permitting the ordination and pastoral service of gay and lesbian individuals, whether single, married, or in covenanted relationships. In the liturgy for Christian unity that's part of our book of worship, there's a petition that goes, "Make visible the unity that you desire as we express a spirit of reconciliation in all our relationships." As David noted, the stated theme for Unity Synod was discerning the unity together. And with that theme in mind, one might assume there would be dialogue at Unity Synod about our different understandings of homosexuality in the church. But this did not happen in our committee. Why? Well, I think it's important to note that the Czech Republic is one of the most secular countries in the world. The Moravians in the Czech Unity Province position their church as being over and against the secular culture. They have a very high view of Scripture so as to differentiate themselves from the culture. Given their context, the Czech Unity Province requires its members to speak with one voice. In this part of our Moravian unity, there is no discussion about alternative readings of Scripture. The Czech province's proposal directed at the Northern Province was about church discipline. In their view, the Northern Province was in error and needed to be disciplined. To be sure, there are Moravians in the Southern Province who hold this same view, but they do so in a different context. To be clear, the conversation we're having in the Southern Province about our different understandings would not be permitted in the Czech province. And generally speaking, this is also the case with the Moravian Church of Latin America and the Caribbean, and of course in Africa as well. Many of us are aware that the Moravians in Africa, particularly in Tanzania, cannot have a conversation within their church about homosexuality. In Tanzania, the practice of homosexuality is illegal, a crime that carries a sentence of 30 years to life imprisonment. In the Unity Synods of 2002 and 2009, the Tanzanian delegates left the plenary when homosexuality was discussed. For them, it is a taboo subject. They are not in favor of any dialogue about different understandings. So, in our committee, we could not, to use the language of the liturgy, express a spirit of reconciliation, except to bring to the floor one of the 6 proposals. And we chose the one entitled Message to the American Church, Northern Province. So the proposals resolves were this. Be it resolved that the Unity Synod 2016 declares to the American Northern Province that the actions of its June 2014 Synod concerning the marriage of same-gender couples and the ordination of homosexual people is not in accordance with the 2016 Unity Synod's understanding of marriage, based on Unity Synod 2016's understanding of the church order of the Unitas Fratrum, the Moravian Covenant for Christian Living, and Scripture. And be it further resolved that the Unity Synod 2016 commissions the Unity Board to observe the development in the American Northern Province and to take necessary measures if needed. During the plenary discussion, there were emotional exchanges, though the Northern Province delegates were more muted. Indeed, knowing the Tanzanians' discomfort about this matter, the Northern Province would have preferred that this conversation not take place in plenary, but within the Unity Board. That said, there were emotional responses from the floor, including an amendment from a Tanzanian delegate that removed the words, if needed, from the original motion, thereby directing the Unity Board to take necessary measures, period. So what does that mean? Well, I believe we need to keep telling the story about so many hurts, so many frustrations, so many misunderstandings. We need to do this until we get to the healing. In this way, the Southern Province will discern the unity together. This is our context, and it's important for other Moravians too. As David mentioned before Unity Synod, all the delegates received a paper written by Jürgen Beutler, but adopted by the Unity Committee on Theology. It was a paper entitled A Discussion about the Role of the Worldwide Moravian Unity. And I'll close with a sentence from that paper which speaks to me. modeling how to be united in love despite confessional differences, offers a witness of Christian health to the greater church and secular world. Sisters and brothers, may it be so.
I think we do have time. If anybody has specific questions, I think the brethren would agree to respond as a few minutes allow. So anybody have any specific questions for our brothers about their experience, about the fellowship they enjoyed, and what they have brought back about the nature of the unity? Yes.
Just wondering, for those people who don't know, I don't, what's the plenary?
The plenary is when all the delegates are together, as opposed to meeting in separate working groups or committees.
Okay.
Does anybody know if historically the Unity Synod has taken some kind of action against an individual province?
I know of one in the 1850s that was just uncovered last week. Well, we were just reminded of it last week at the Bethlehem Conference on Moravian History and Music. In the 1850s, the Unity Board in Herrnhuter sent a very stern letter to the southern province decrying the practice of revivals, saying this is not appropriate, this is not Moravian, this has to cease and desist. So the question then happened, what did we do about it? Well, our elders conference, provincial elders conference, pretty much just looked at that and said, they don't understand us, and they put it in the files. And the next time it came up was when Daniel was writing the provincial history, which is how come he didn't remember it until somebody made reference to it. So I don't know of others, but one of you brothers might know more than I do about that.
There have been resolutions at Unity Synod that were directing provinces to, make certain decisions or behave in certain ways in conflict situations. But I don't believe that there has been a resolution essentially criticizing a province in this way in previous Unity Synods.
Now, there's been some division in Czechoslovakia over the years over their difference of belief. I don't know what those
Right.
are. And also
I don't either.
in Nicaragua, some differences.
Right.
But those things are resolved or dealt with by whom?
The Unity Board is the body that operates between the 7-year Unity Synods. It's composed of representatives from every Unity province, typically the presidents of the provinces. And they meet every 2 years. They'll be meeting in 2018. And that's the body that in some ways functions parallel to our PEC. They don't have this. It doesn't have the same governing authority. It can only implement what the Unity Synod has said and make sort of some limited decisions along those lines. But it's the close parallel would be it's sort of like our PEC. Between synods, it operates, and so that's the body that the resolution directed to observe the developments in the northern province and take necessary measures. And it will meet sometime in 2018. So yeah. And that's also the body to which questions, appeals, those sorts of things would be directed about any action of the Unity Synod. Yeah.
Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would just like, this is not a question, this is just my personal statement, that I express my sympathy and understanding and appreciation to Brother Troutman for what he's been going through with this, and I thank you for your presentation. It helped clarify a lot of things for me. My question, though, has to do with, you mentioned, Brother Guthrie, that there is a new, what did you call it, a commission for identifying potential sites for what's
Provincial mission.
Yeah.
Potential mission areas.
Potential mission areas.
Yes, could you tell us a little bit about how, are there some specific areas that are already in mind, and how would that work?
The best example is Ecuador right now, and so it's this is like an exploratory phase. when you become a mission area, there are certain criteria that you begin to abide by, and you come into a relationship with a full province as a supervising province. So, for example, Cuba was a mission area under we were cooperating with them, supporting them as a southern province. Now they're a mission province themselves. But so this is sort of the earlier stage of maybe becoming a mission area. And Ecuador is a good example. I'll tell you that story. So we're the supporting province to the Cuba Unity Province. The Cuba Unity Province has two of their members who are actually in Ecuador, seeing if work can be developed in Ecuador. And what that label and the criteria for this does is it allows the Unity Board and the mission agencies like our Board of World Mission to engage that work at a very early point. We also, for example, are seeing there's a group in Panama that is made up primarily of immigrants from Nicaragua who went there for work reasons. And they may very well be called a prospective mission area, and that will allow us to have that relationship with them at a very early stage. That's the benefit.
And some of these these efforts or these groups that have come together have been sort of on the grassroots level, haven't they? They just sort of...
I call them spontaneous eruptions of Moravianism. Cuba being one, Burundi being another, and in fact the group in Panama was going before any provincial leadership in the region found out about it. So yeah, it's spontaneous eruptions, yeah. And then what we have to do is run to catch up with it, you know. So, yeah.
Thank you.
This is a little different, but is there a problem congregation in Alaska? What's the story on that?
It's a story that's difficult to tell in a short span, but yes, there was a congregation in Anchorage that separated themselves from the province and began to do their own mission and evangelistic activities in Alaska. For a time, from 2012 until August, they were recognized as a group of people within the Unity. They never had a status as a province or a mission area, but they were a recognized group within the Unity. The Unity Board was working with them and mainly trying to accomplish reconciliation with the Alaska Church. And that effort really did not bring any fruit. And regrettably, at the Unity Synod in August, the association of that group with the Unity was terminated. There was a resolution that said they were no longer be considered a group within the Unity, and they were no longer recognized. And that was action that was taken in August. But yes, there is a small group of congregations that has moved to be now independent of the Moravian Church in Alaska. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have another church in Anchorage.
We do, but you have to figure out which is the one that's affiliated with the Moravians and the one that's independent, because unfortunately we cannot, we don't have a copyright or a protection on the name Moravian, regrettably. Some of us know that. I think I want to make a final comment. I mean, I'm not sure how much more time we have, but I do want to make a final comment because, you know, the fellowship and worship and community sharing life of the Unity Synod was significant. That very much felt like back home in the southern province when we all get together. The day out where we did the cultural heritage tour of Jamaica and saw all of the mission stations and even that Old Carmel, the original, we were standing on the ground where they built the very first mission station, and it was now turning into a historical site. And the shared heritage was just, I mean, you could reach out and touch it. All of those decisions that I read about really show that we can be together in mission. And there are a lot of things that we want to do together. I mean, think of the things that I listed off and how important they are for not only the worldwide church, but for our province. And then we had this one matter come to the fore that shows us how challenging it is to be a worldwide church with all the diversity that we have. And it challenges the idea of the identity of who we are as a unity and how we do stay in community and how we do stay engaged in mission together, even in our differences. And so, we had this one part of this experience that if you could have set it apart and maybe had it in a different time, it would have been a glorious time. But there was this one matter that really raised these very deep questions about who we are and how we work together as a worldwide church.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, brothers, for your... Next month, Richard Starbuck is here. It's on December the 8th, and he will talk about the day which has lived in infamy. See you next month.